So let's say that at this point, I don't really like the way how I constructed the surface, and I rather would like to have a very slight curvature. There are two ways how we actually could do this. Let me show you the approach one. I'm going to delete that surface. Then I'm going to turn on my curves. I select this curve. I copy and paste this curve into my scene, and then I go to transform and move it a little bit up. And then in addition, I have to go into scale, and then with my left mouse button, I'm scaling it slightly down, and with my right mouse button, scale it along the Z. So I flattened a little bit because, you know, the curve along the sleeve is planar, is flat, and this curve is very shaped. So somehow I have to try to find a transitional stage between this one and this one for the center curve. Let's go into top view. That looks good as well. Okay, now I could go to surface and then go back to skin and then select the first curve, select the second curve, and then I select the last curve. And as you can see, I have now a nice curvature to it. I could, for example, now select the curve I just created, and you see that the surface below has magenta lines. That means actually that this curve I selected affects the surface, which is now colored magenta. So I could, for example, go into move, and maybe with the right mouse button, move the curve a little bit more up. And then you see, thankfully to the construction history, Alias is updating also my model. I can also move it to the left or to the right. I could also go in and go to the CV picker and then maybe just only work on a point basis. That is option 1. Now option 2, let me delete those curves first, would use a new modeling command. So I go to curves and create a CV curve. I go into perspective view, zoom in a little bit, and now I press my control button and left click right where I have an edit point on this curve. I can go into the left view, maybe with my middle mouse button, press and then drag a point out so it's tangent to the left. I can click maybe somewhere here, and then I go into perspective again, press my control button and click on this last added point there. So this way I created a curve that starts and ends on those two profile curves. So, and then to create a surface, we could go to surfaces and then rail, and I double click it first. And the B-rail control panel allows me to have generative curves, 1, 2, or more than 2, and 1 or 2 rail curves. So now, what is what? A generative curve is the curve I just created. this curve is being rotated like the revolve tool by using the rail curves. And the rail curves are this circle and this outer circle. So let's do it. You see already that the command asked me to select a generation curve. So I click this one, then it asks me for my primary rail curve, and I have two selected, so I select my first one. And then it asks me to select a second curve, this one. Then I can close that command, can go to the object mode, go to the left view, and there you see a surface is created. It's kind of like similar like this, the skin or loft. Basically, the surface that is created is the same. It's just the method being used different. So I could go maybe select the CV point, select this point, go to move. And now I only have one curve I can edit, for example, to change the way how this transitional surface should look like. So instead of having to edit a complete curve, I only have like a small section of 2 points I could work with. And that was the second way how you create that surface. And now you might maybe ask, well, which one is better in what situation? And honestly, that really depends on your modeling need. As I said here, I only have 2 points, so I have limited ability to affect the quality of that surface, but also I only have 2 points I have to work with. So as you can see from my left view, if I move this point, let's go to transform, everything's updated immediately. Now, if I would like to change this curvature independently than this curvature, I would have to go with the first approach where I have another profile curve in the center. That is more work, but also gives me a little bit more flexibility. So based on really what you need, you can switch between one or the other one. Because at the end, it doesn't really matter which one you use, because I just create the surface the same way.